President Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy are planning to meet while attending the NATO summit at The Hague. In an interview with Sky News, the Ukrainian leader says their teams are still working out details. Sources say the meeting will focus on sanctions against Russia and military aid for Kyiv. For more on this year's NATO summit, we're joined by Ukrainian Parliament member Halyna Yanchenko. Good morning and thanks for joining us from Kyiv. I'm curious of what your expectations are from this planned meeting between Presidents Trump and Zelenskyy, considering their relationship seems to have deteriorated somewhat in the past year.
Sure, and good morning. Well, talking about the expectations that we in Ukraine have regarding the NATO summit, first of all, I believe that it is crucial that President Trump and President Zelenskyy meet during the summit. Secondly, I believe that it will be likely that President Zelenskyy might raise an issue that the strategy of so-called friendly conversations with Putin are less efficient than the strategy of strengthen. After all, it was President Trump's position that the U.S. foreign policy should be leading with peace through strength. And thirdly, I believe that over the past few months, Russia has systematically failed to uphold their commitments. After all long conversation with Trump, Putin promised one thing, but did the opposite. So to me, it appears as a sign of disrespect to both President Trump, but also to the whole U.S. as a state.
What would it look like then for Ukraine to achieve its goals? You say peace through strength, to replicate a Trump phrase. What would that look like that's different from a more friendly approach toward Putin, based on your description?
I believe that U.S. is the most powerful country in the world, and pretty much U.S. is an only country that actually can stop Russian unprovoked war in Ukraine. And U.S. has numerous tools for that. I believe that sanctions, including the secondary sanctions, which might be introduced toward the organizations or even countries that continue supporting Russia or work with Russia or actually trade with Russia, might be one of the most efficient tools. After all, if U.S. will not force Russia to stop this war, the consequences will be very bad for the whole world. We already see how Russia is forcing and forming a so-called axis of evil, coordinating and helping Iran to actually become stronger military and economically. After all, I really can't understand how U.S. can actually continue all this friendly conversation with Russia, given that Russia has signed the military union and military agreement with Iran this year. It was just January of this year.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that you make, that Russia is an ally of Iran, and here we have just seen the U.S. attack Iranian nuclear sites. But we also saw a few months ago when there was that explosive dust-up at the Oval Office between Zelenskyy and Trump and Trump's team. Since then, Ukraine has been able to facilitate what was described at the time as a kind of incredible covert attack on Russian forces in Russia. Do you think that might help Zelenskyy in his conversation with Trump to convince Trump to give Ukraine what it needs? Do you really have the same confidence that the U.S. will back Ukraine the way it has in the past few years?
I really hope so, as I am myself a big fan of U.S. and I invested a lot of time and efforts of my own to strengthen cooperation between U.S. and Ukraine. I believe that we might actually cooperate much more efficient. After all, Ukraine is a totally different country now compared to what we were like 5 years ago or some time ago. Ukraine has become one of the most powerful partners for a majority of the NATO countries. Moreover, recently there were military training in Estonia to actually train European troops to be able to protect themselves against Russia if there will be Russian aggression. And majority of European countries believe that there might be Russian aggression toward Europe, meaning toward basically NATO countries within the next 5 years. And guess who was leading the training? It was Ukrainian soldiers and Ukrainian military leadership who taught NATO troops how to actually work with drones, how to work with radio electronic defense and stuff like that. Because we are pretty much an only country in this part of the world who can really be very efficient with quite modern weapons such as drones and radio electronic defense and stuff like that.
Yeah,
This
and we
special
should underscore that Ukraine.
Other
Sorry to interrupt, we're out of time, but Ukraine wants that NATO membership, and while Zelensky's invited to this meeting, he's not yet invited to join. That's been a major sticking point. Halyna Yanchenko, I really appreciate you joining us, your time and your insight today. Thank you so much.